Welcome to the Momentum Matters podcast, where we have courageous conversations with women leaders. You'll hear about their accomplishments, their experiences, their challenges, and best advice. If you are inspired by women who have overcome the barriers and gone on to do extraordinary things, you are in the right place.
Hey everyone, it's Katie. Welcome to the Momentum Matters podcast. I'm excited to have Dr. Kate McCombs on today. She is a dear friend that I made actually in our Upward program. We were participants at the same time back in 2022, and Kate is a professor at Samford University and just has so much knowledge and expertise to share with us about leadership today. She talks about self-leadership and what that is, what some of the elements are of truly effective leaders, and we even get into some discussion about AI and how it is shaping the future of work. So I'm excited that you're here and hope you enjoy this episode. Kate, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. We are both alumni members of Upward Class 4. That's how I got to know you and have loved getting to know you over the years. I'd love for you to share with everybody how you became a professor teaching all about leadership at Samford University. What has been your journey?
Yes. Hi everyone. I'm Kate. So I actually started with a degree in finance. So I graduated from University of Florida. Go Gators, for any Gators out there, and had my degree, undergrad in finance and a master's, and wanted to work in finance forevermore, work that corporate ladder, and that was the dream. And I knew I wanted to teach at some point, but I kind of thought it was going to be my second act, my second career. Yeah. And after working in corporate America for a number of years, I became pretty obsessed with what is making me motivated and what's making me not motivated. What's making me follow a leader versus not. What's making me look up to this person versus want to run from this job. Yeah. And I was in a finance leadership development program, so I had the privilege of having over 15 leaders within a 3-year span. Mm-hmm. So I was able to really get immersed in a lot of different types of leaders, then worked in sales, and really wanted to figure out, okay, what is making people like their jobs versus not? Because I had a lot of jobs that I really didn't like. Mm-hmm. So went back to school and got my Ph.D. in management, specifically leadership. Worked at Tennessee Tech for a year and then been at Samford for going on 5 years, and absolutely love it. Absolutely love this profession. And being able to now also work with organizations to kind of bridge the gap between academia and practical application in organizations. So it's been great.
What about your journey in learning about leadership and being in academia has surprised you most about leadership styles or leadership in general? What's that? Was there a light bulb for you of something?
Yes. So I, with the finance undergrad, by nature I like efficient. And I like black and white. And with time, that's kind of gone out the window because leadership is, it depends. Everything is, it depends. And if you're not adaptable, then you will not be a good leader. If you don't realize when you should be loud and inspiring and when you should be the leader in the back row, then you're not going to be a successful leader. Mm-hmm. So that was a really frustrating lesson because it realized, how in the world am I going to research this? How in the world am I going to tell people this is the way to be a good leader if there's not one? If there's not just 1 + 2 = 3. Yeah. So that was frustrating, but also a lot of freedom because isn't that what life is, right? Like we both have little kids. Yeah. There's no 1 + 2 = 3. No. Like there's none of that, right? So it ended up being kind of freeing to realize that, but also can be frustrating because it's not necessarily efficient to be an effective leader. You really have to constantly be tweaking yourself.
And so what I'm hearing you say and what we see at Momentum is emotional intelligence is such an important part. And I even saw a quote from Simon Sinek today. It was like something along the lines of, if you don't understand people, you don't understand business. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I'm hearing from you, kind of bubble to the top. What do you see in the next generation of leaders that you're teaching? What is something promising that you see?
Yes. Okay, that's not the direction I thought we were going to go, so I'm going to go negative and then positive.
Okay.
Because I was thinking, Simon Sinek, I follow all of his stuff, so love it. And I was thinking just like future trends and what I'm seeing in this generation is a little bit, I'm seeing a pullback a little bit to, we see it every day in the news right now, rapid firing, what is success, bottom line, quick as possible, what are we going to be able to report in this quarterly earnings. So it's really focused on short-term success, and everything you were talking about is long-term success, right? And so it's really, what is your definition of success? And for me, it's to have employees thrive, to have employees be elevated to be able to achieve their full potential. And that means not micromanaging them.
Right.
That means them being empowered. That means them wanting to come to work and then leaving work and being good people at home, not grumpy, miserable people at home.
That's so good.
Yeah, and that is not the definition of success we're working with right now.
Right.
It's what is the bottom line. And so we see these successful companies like Amazon and Uber, and they're so successful, right? But then there's lawsuits. There's people talking about the company culture and how awful it is. There's people getting fired left and right. There's the CEO has to step down because of the culture he's created. And you see there's deeper cracks in this successful company. So what is your own definition of success? And students, I think, are noticing. They're saying, if that's what it takes to be successful, I don't know if I want that.
Yeah.
And we see Gallup just came out with a study, 31% of people are engaged in their jobs, which means 69%, whatever the number is not engaged. And that ends up being $1.9 trillion a year to businesses, is not being engaged because you high turnover, you don't come to work, you're on autopilot. And that's the younger employees going to work and just staring at the clock to get out of work. And they see success is going to be burnout. Success is going to be only caring about the bottom line. And they're saying, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But what do I do? And there's a little bit of that like crisis to try to figure it out. Now, what I love about this generation, to bring it like positive, because that's kind of the environment they're going into, is they're so curious and they ask questions and they're not wanting to settle. Like they've been able to watch this and see this, and I think some of this is a testament to millennials and being entitled. I think that's what we're often called. But they've seen that and they've said, okay, if they can do that, I'm going to do that too. I care about remote work. I care about work-life balance. I care about these things. We're seeing organizations pull back on those things. What's going to happen? And we're seeing a little bit of a shift in organizations being back to, if you won't, I'll find someone who will. And that's what I'm a little fearful of what's going to happen, because this generation is like, I won't. And will they end up sacrificing that and being like, fine, I will, because I want a paycheck and I want a family and I want all these things promised to me too. So I don't know, that was a bit of a loaded answer there, but I think they're just really curious and they're excited to not settle, but I think there's also a lot of fear in that too, of how do I make that happen?
Yeah, it's it seems like a bit of a struggle there between two things. How much of that is generational? How much of it is post-COVID?
For what exactly?
For the in-between of what is success and how do I get that in a way that benefits me and my family and the life that I want. I feel like so many of us during COVID had this reckoning with, what does it mean to be successful and how do I do all of this, balance all this responsibility and make it happen in a global pandemic. And I think, and again, we can splice all this up, but I think for me, and what some of what I heard you say was, I remember being in COVID thinking about, I hope some of this stays. The care we had for one another, the checking in on mental health, the being mindful of all that people were carrying, and the trauma that we were all enduring through that time. I feel like we're slowly getting away from that again.
Yes. Yeah.
How much of, and I guess that's what I'm after, is how much of what the new generation of leaders are wanting is generational, and how much of it has been influenced by COVID?
Yeah, I think a massive amount of it is COVID, and is the environment we're in. And once you give it to us, try taking it away.
Right.
Is kind of what you're feeling. But organizations are. They're saying, I mean, we see it with a bunch of organizations. They're saying, you got to be back in the office every day.
Yeah.
And some people are saying, then I quit.
Yeah.
And some people are saying, I guess that's what's happening. So we're in a really interesting time because so many of my students want that, but they're okay with not having that right now. And that's a slippery slope, right? Because then in 10 years, do they have it or do they not? So that's tricky because you're always balancing wanting a job and wanting money and a paycheck with wanting your whole life to be good too. And I think this generation, because of COVID, is battling with that a little bit more than other ones, because they also have the parents that are also saying, yeah, be passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Versus other generations who have the parents that were saying, you just got to get a paycheck. Come on. Like, this is just a job. So they're getting a little more support in that side too. I see a lot of students taking gap years. I see a lot of students realizing this might just be one step job to the next job. COVID was just such an interesting time. And I think, can I speak on one of my research papers?
Please.
Yeah. So one research paper I did was during COVID, which was really awesome to be able to test during that time. And I wanted to figure out what changed and what people wanted. And this was only relevant for women, which was pretty interesting to find, that usually people really want that inspiring, charismatic leader. Great speech, gets them pumped up and empowered. During COVID, women specifically were not interested in that. They wanted a more transactional leader that asked them personal questions. So they wanted the one-on-one personal questions. But why was that happening? Well, they were a CEO in their own house. They had a kid on Zoom in the back.
Right.
They don't want to listen to someone lengthy speech about how things are going to be okay when they don't know that it's going to be okay.
Right.
They want someone that says, hey, I see you. I see everything you're juggling. This is what needs to get done. When that is done, go do whatever you need to get done. So they had empathy and they were direct. And that was leaders that shifted that way were the most successful, because leaders that instead were all focused on, oh, I can heal us and we're going to keep our jobs and everything's going to be okay. Like, I know that might not be true. And I hear a 3-year-old crying in the background and everything is chaotic. Tell me what I need to get done in this job. Because people were realizing a job was just one portion of someone's lives in a way they never had before.
Oh, that's good.
Because even managers were seeing your 7-year-old behind you in a screen. So you could no longer just say, oh, how's the family? It was like, there is your family.
Right.
There is your house. There is your living room. I can see now what your life situation is versus mine. I can see what your house is like. I can see you don't have a home office. You learn so much about someone during this time that now it's kind of stripped away, and it's, tell me what to do for this job. Then we can have a personal discussion, but I don't have time for the inspirational speech. I don't have time for that. And so I think that was really, really interesting to see. And I think people are trying to pull people back in the office with these inspirational speeches that you see a lot of eye rolls. You see a lot of,
Yeah.
I don't want to go back. And I just don't know, because you're just as, research shows you're just as productive in or out of the office.
I was just about to ask.
But you are not as connected outside of the office.
Yeah.
So there is a lack of loyalty to the organization that way. There is less work best friends, which helps you stay connected. There is less conversation with people, which again makes you less connected. So there are reasons to be in the office. So just how do we mix those two things? And I don't know. I struggle with that all the time, because my focus is how do you make people as healthy as they can be as a whole person without sacrificing organizations being successful. And that's something that's really hard to figure out.
Yeah. And so my next follow-up question to that is, the remote work is leading to less connectivity. Has there been research that you've seen that it affects innovation at all in a negative or a positive way?
So again, it depends the person. So one thing I'm really obsessed with is self-leadership and leading yourself. And that's something I'm really passionate with my students, any organizations I work with. It starts with you leading yourself. Once you can do that, understanding others, then influencing others. So if you're a self-leader, then if you're remote work, you're going to be more creative because you have a little more space, a little more time to think, more time to be creative, because you're still focused on your schedule. You're still focused on what your goals are. You're still focused on leading yourself. If you aren't a self-leader, then that's when we see you're not going to go out of your way. You're not going to use that extra time to grab a cup of coffee with someone. You're not going to see the benefit of that. You're not going to use that extra time to read a book that makes you more creative. So it really depends on the person. So that's why I'm pretty obsessed with if we can make everybody a self-leader, then everything will be beneficial, whether it's remote or not. Today was a remote day, and I said, let's do this podcast in person. Because I want to get dressed. I want to grab a cup of coffee. I want to meet you in person and have a conversation because I know that's going to lead to a better day.
So I want to dig in there with self-leadership. What are some of the elements that people can think when they're thinking self-leadership? What does that exactly look like?
Yeah, so I'll tell you first on the research side and then practically what that actually means. Yeah. So self-leadership, the theory is all practical strategies to be a self-leader. So constructive thought strategies, the way you think about what you think, the way you motivate yourself, natural reward strategies, so what's actually in your environment that makes you a better self-leader or not, and then behavior-focused strategies. So that's your self-goal setting, your observation, your to-do list and tracking. So what does that mean actually applying in real life is, are you someone that really is intentional about your day, intentional about the way you're leading, intentional about the way you are about yourself? Because leadership, again, I go back to this finance background, leadership is not complex. It's not complicated, but it takes a consistency that can be really draining. It takes a consistency and an intentionality that can be exhausting. So self-leadership is, how do you stay motivated when you're exhausted to keep doing and showing up as that person that you know will lead better, that you know will be happier, that you know will be more content. Because oftentimes we know that, but we don't do it. Yeah. And why? It's because it's hard. Even though it's not complex, it's hard to put on your tennis shoes and wake up at 5 a.m. and go for a walk because you know that's going to make your day better than scrambling at 7 a.m. Yeah. It's not complicated, but it takes this consistency that's just really difficult to do.
And there are some, and in that, I'm thinking about the shuffling to get ready at 7 a.m., which was my story today. Yeah. There is, and it's not every day, but there are some of those things that can be out of your control when it comes to self-leading. How important is the grace that you give yourself on those days and being a good self-leader?
Yes, 100%. So part of that is that constructive thought strategy. Okay. So what is your self-talk? How do you talk to yourself? I see some people, if they have an off morning, this is going to be a bad day. Probably will. It's probably going to be a bad day then. Or you have such habits in place that you wake up at 7 instead of 5 and you're like, you know what, I'm going to stretch outside while I take the dogs out for 2 minutes instead of my 30-minute workout. I'm going to pray for a minute instead of my 20-minute routine. I'm going to have these micro moments instead to still have my day be really strong. It doesn't affect your day at all. It continues moving forward because it's all about what are you doing 80% of the time. And then something happens and it doesn't rock your world because you're overall pretty consistent. Instead, it can kind of add a novelty to it. Like, this is something different. This, it's when your every day is that chaos that you'll find yourself in that chaos the rest of the day. And again, there's seasons for everything, right? There might be a season that is your every day and every morning. So how do you reset at 10 a.m.? That's your schedule. How do you reset once the kids are dropped off at 9:30? That becomes your plan. Like, it doesn't have to be a certain way. We see on social media, it should be like cold plunge, this, that, put our face in an ice bath. Like there's all these steps before you even start your day. And if you don't do those things, you're going to have an awful day. No, for you, it might mean my morning is chaos. And at 9 a.m. at my office, I have 5 minutes with my cup of coffee where I listen to one song I like. Yeah. And that's my routine that sets me up for success, whatever it is in that time.
Yeah. That's so good. What do you see that becomes important supports for self-leadership, right? I'm thinking about women specifically. We have so many things that we are juggling. And I think back to something you said during our Upward year that I will never forget. You have to know which plates are porcelain and which ones are plastic, or maybe you said paper. But with women specifically, juggling so much when it comes to family life, kids, building a career, how do you empower women to, or how would you encourage women to seek support and not feel like by self-leadership, that doesn't mean you have to do it all?
Yes. 100% so important, something I am constantly learning too. You are so impacted by the 5 people you hang out with the most. So make those 5 people that support you. So my husband, when he travels, reminds me, hey, part of this job that I took that I'm going to be traveling more, we talked about you using this babysitter that we absolutely love, that loves our girls more often. Did you use her this week? No. Why not? Right? And pushing me constantly to that. My friends, the people I hang out with the most, they're in the same boat. So we're not adding guilt to each other, right? Which is fine. If you're in a certain life stage that you have time capacity and you love it to write little notes in every single lunchbox, surround your friends of that sort so that you're building yourself up with that too. And so you don't feel that guilt or comparison. So I think that's really important, who you're hanging out with and who you're surrounding yourself with. And then it's to not burn out, you have to know what is your goals and not what's your goals in the next 6 months. I like to do a 3-year or a 5-year like goal setting, vision planning. Where do I see myself in 5 years? And especially if it comes to kids, I put my girls' ages in 5 years because that helps me with perspective too of where I'm at, where they're at. And then go backwards. What does a day look like to get there now? And what doesn't matter? And something for me that doesn't matter is thank you cards. Right. No one really cares to get them. They don't care. It's a lot of effort for me to put them out there. It's not part of my 5-year plan, I'll tell you that. It's not going to make a friend. It's not going to make a connection. Now, a thank you card for a personal work relationship, totally separate. Right. But a random birthday gift that they threw something in a bag and gave you, and you're like trying to track down this one mom that gave this book, no one cares, right? Or maybe you're someone that's a core value and that matters to you. Then do it. You have to know what matters so that you set yourself up. And if it doesn't matter, don't do it. And then also be really intentional about what you say yes to. So one affirmation I love is my no is loving and my yes is free. So if you say no, that's loving. You're doing that because you love yourself. If you're doing that because you love whoever asked you this and you know that you won't be able to show up right if you say yes to that. But if you say yes, you don't resent it. You're not like, why did I say yes to this? Why did I say, sure, I can do pickup or I can do drop off when I really can't? Why didn't I say, no, I can't? Because oftentimes, and this is a stereotype, but I feel like more women will listen to this than men probably, is I had a friend tell me in one of my meetings I was racing out because daycare was closing early because they seem to just decide random days to close early all the time. And I'm in a department meeting and I'm like frantic. And one of my friends said, what do you think, and I won't say the name, but it was a male counterpoint, what do you think he would be doing right now? And I was like, he'd probably text his wife, can you do pickup? It would be elbows out. And I always think of this phrase like elbows out, like you would make it happen. Like if you have to be in this meeting, and it hadn't even crossed my mind to text my husband, hey, I'm in this meeting long and daycare closed. I know I'm in charge of pickup, but can you do it today? And he said, sure.
Yeah.
And it didn't even cross my mind to ask him, because I was like, I need to make this happen, even though I know this meeting is important. There's times that meeting isn't important, right? There's times that it is important, and not just bending. Instead, elbows out, what would someone else do in the situation? They would ask, hey, can you do it?
Yeah.
And if he couldn't do it, then we can figure out the next plan. Yeah. But not just being this martyr. And I think moms have this martyr, like it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, because it doesn't make you feel good. It makes you burned out, unhappy, resentful, but it makes you feel like you're doing mom right if you're burnt out, which I think is this notion that's completely inaccurate, because you're not doing it right if you're burnt out.
Right.
Maybe you are, if that's what you want, but that's not, you don't have to be burnt out to know you're doing mommying right, or whatever it may be. And same if you don't have kids too, I don't want to focus just on that. If you don't have kids, it's still the same thing. It's still a lot you're juggling, a lot you're balancing. If you're wanting a relationship, if you're in this time of, that's what I really want, how do I have time to date? How do I have time to do all these things too? And how do I make that a priority? You just have to figure out what's important to you and then kind of make it happen.
That's so good. And what I'm hearing too as kind of an underlying theme there, and it's a word that I think we talk a lot about in our personal lives, but not necessarily our professional lives, and that's healthy boundaries. How important is that to the idea of self-leadership? Are those boundaries?
I have a love-hate relationship with boundaries, with the word in general. I think it's so, again, with everything, depends the person, right? And I think some people use boundaries as a way to not be intentional about what they want and overcorrect. And it's like, here's my boundary. If you don't listen to me, I'm not going to be nice to you. I'm not going to do this, or whatever it is. Boundaries require zero anything from the other person. It's supposed to all be you, right? And that gets really lost in the shuffle. So with work, your boundary can be, I'm going to speak up for myself. That requires nothing of anyone else. That requires you doing the hard work. And oftentimes I feel like people look at boundaries as a way for someone else to do the hard work, and you have no control over them. And it's you doing the hard work. So if my boundary is my no is loving and my yes is free, then that means if I say yes, I'm not going to expect anything of you. I'm not going to, that's on me. I'm not going to resent you. I'm not going to expect anything. I did this because I want to do it and I chose to do it. And it changes the whole game then. It's all on you. And so boundaries are actually a ton of work. And people think boundaries is something, not people in general, just I see it happen a lot, especially on social media. Boundaries is something like, oh, you can't do that to me. That's my boundary. And you can't force someone to do anything. It can't be a boundary that you will be respected at work. No, your boundary is how will you handle not being respected? Will you sit in that uncomfortable feeling of going and talking to the person and saying, hey, you interrupted me 5 times in a row in that meeting. Can you not do that anymore? That is uncomfortable to do. And so that boundary of respecting yourself, you're the one uncomfortable. So I think the boundary comes from your own self-discipline, and that's where the self-leadership is it comes from your own self-discipline of being okay with that uncomfortability of listening to your boundary. Instead of doing whatever you probably do all the time, which is, oh, it's fine, no big deal, no worries, yes, sure, and then be mad at yourself for doing that later on.
Oh my gosh, I love that, and I agree wholeheartedly with your position on boundaries. I do think that almost as a society or culturally, we've said boundaries are the fence I'm putting up for you, when really it's the fence you're putting up for yourself. And something self-discipline, as you mentioned. So we've talked a lot about self-leadership and the people side of leadership, which is the most important side. What about AI and technology are you seeing in leadership and how it's affecting us moving forward?
Yes, we love talking about AI.
Yes,
and I am someone in the band camp. I feel like there's either people that think it's a bubble that's going to pop, or people that think it's going to change everything.
Yeah.
I think it's already changing like everything, right? So I'm going to come back to that efficient versus effective.
Okay.
AI is so efficient, and I love it because of that, right? You can get so much done in such a short period of time, and people that aren't learning it and using it are missing out. Like, you can get so much done. However, is all of that effective? Depends. And I think that's where leadership, you can't have, AI can't be a leader. AI cannot lead people. AI can't do the skills that I think it takes to be an effective leader. So you need to know how to do those things. So all those soft skills are only becoming more and more and more important with AI, because AI can help you write an email really eloquently. AI can help me maybe even write a paper. Some of that is not allowed in the research realm, so I stay away from that. But it could write an entire book, right? But then how would that author get on a podcast and talk about that book?
Right.
If they don't know what they're talking about, it's going to sound pretty awful.
Yeah.
If you then try to use that author as a consultant, they're not going to actually know anything beyond what AI created. So all of the actual true leadership comes from the people side, the people-centric, the conversation side, and all the leadership skills you can't learn via AI. AI can help you tweak that stuff. You can use it as a great tool for, how should I answer this interview question? How should I handle this uncomfortable situation? And use it as a tool, but it cannot have an uncomfortable conversation for you, right? And so when it comes to leadership, it's really kind of this untouchable area with AI, because you still need that person side, right? You still, same with the doctor. A doctor might be able to do all AI surgery, but at some point you want to talk to a human and be like, am I going to be safe in your hands?
Yeah.
At some point you want a human to, AI can tell you all the goals, a human to be like, this is what you should prioritize, how are you doing, here's the conversation, here's the direction we need, right? So the leadership side, I really don't think AI is going to change it. And what you need, I think it's going to only be more important in school that we're teaching our students that, because a lot of what we're teaching, AI can do. Yeah. So making sure that we're really focused on teaching what AI can't, which is those leadership skills.
I want to dig into something here that has been on my mind as it relates to AI. One of the questions that I've been wrestling with personally is, when do we become efficient enough? When is our efficiency enough? I use AI just about every day to help me be more efficient. As leaders are listening to this, what would be your message to them on striking a balance between using tools and being okay with how efficient their teams are, if that makes sense? And then the second part of my question becomes, we've built these 8-hour work days, 5 days a week. What does leadership look like moving forward with AI? Is that practical in the future, or will our work weeks become shorter?
Yeah, so I'll kind of start with the second question. Yeah. I think it depends what our definition of success is. So if the definition of success is the most profits for organization and the bottom line for quarterly review, just squeeze more out of those employees in those 8 hours. That's what's going to happen, right? If it's, we move towards, oh wow, AI can make our lives wholly better, our lives for a whole person better, then the work week could get shorter. Yeah. Now, will organizations take that hint? I don't know. I think it's really going to depend on the leader probably, and depend on what's happening. It also, just because it makes your day faster, it doesn't mean your day necessarily should be shorter. I think with AI, a big thing I'm challenging myself on is just to be really curious. So if I have more free time now, if I now can put into AI just even silly things, change change the first names to last names, put the grades in, and create this spreadsheet that would have taken an hour, create it for me in 30 seconds. Then using that hour to read a book, to read an article that invigorates my thinking for a lecture, for a leadership workshop, for a coaching call I have. Using that time to be curious, then using AI to get more and more curious and have more and more ideas. Then it's spurring more creativity, it's spurring more ideas. If you use it as a tool to just be efficient so that you can sit on your couch more, then what does that mean? Because you're not going to learn more. You're going to learn less and less. You're going to be less satisfied with your days because you're going to realize at the end of the day, what did I even do? What did I do today? Nothing invigorated my brain today. I call that monkey work. Like you just do it, go through the motions. You get home and you feel exhausted even though you didn't use your brain. And it's because you got to be curious and you've got to learn something almost every day to stay invigorated. But I think the way you set up your day, I feel really lucky in my career. My 8 hours can look different, right? And that, I think, organizations that are focused on, that are people-centric and focused on success being that person thriving, every person in their organization thriving and reaching their full potential, won't really worry about what their day looks like. Maybe their day, because they're all their own self-leaders, so they realize if I go for a walk in the middle of the day for 30 minutes, I can do the afternoon work in an hour and a half, and it is quality, strong work, and then I can go pick my kids up. If I do it that way, versus having FaceTime, that you're just in the office to be in the office. But you know, some days you can work 8 hours and be like, none, that was garbage. None of that was good. So really trusting the person to manage their own life. So it just always comes back to that. So I think with AI, you have to make sure that that person, and I have to check myself on this all the time too, is am I using AI to be more efficient and still have high quality? Or am I using AI to just be more efficient? And you have to kind of test yourself constantly on that because it's just so tempting. And I'm really happy I didn't have it in school because it's just so tempting. And I see it with students all the time. They're using so much AI, and some are using it for better, and it's really elevating their work. And some people are using it just for efficiency, and it's not good.
Right. Yeah. That's, I bet you can see that. I mean, it's pretty, you can't typically take what ChatGPT spits out and copy paste. It does involve a human element to make it really elevated. But I love what you said there. Okay, I want to wrap up our conversation with a question that might be kind of loaded, but what if you had to nail down 5 qualities of what leaders must possess to be effective, what would those 5 be? And maybe 5 is not the magic number, but it's one that came to mind.
I think like with everything, right? I have my definition of leadership. I have my definition of success. I have my definition of what an effective leader is. So all of my stuff is focused on people-centric, is focused on, I truly believe, and I teach my students, if a person is thriving and then all the people are thriving, the organization will thrive. And it may not be the one making the most profits in that one quarter, but it'll be stable, sustainable, and sounds cheesy, but good for the whole world, right? I truly believe that, and I try to teach my students that too. So to be an effective leader, to be a leader that's effective in a way that is people-centric and has that heart of success being people-centric, I think it's being accountable. I think we're seeing people really not want to be accountable. And it's really easy to point fingers. It's really easy to hide behind something. Even as we were talking about AI, I teach my students, if you use AI, those are now your words. So you can't say, oh, that wasn't that citation that doesn't actually exist. That was AI's fault. AI is not a person. You submitted this work. You have to be accountable. And I think it goes such a long way if you can be accountable for what you're doing. Spoke about this earlier, be adaptable. So every single person, every single situation is going to require something different. And as times constantly change, you need to be adaptable. Be confident, and then number 4, be humble. So it's that balance of the two, and knowing which you're more likely to sway towards. So being confident, you need to be confident in order to not overcompensate. You need to be competent to be able to not control the situation. Because if you're confident in your role in what's happening, you don't feel the need to be the loudest in the room. You don't feel the need to control everything. You feel empowered, confident, in control of the seat you have on the table without overcompensating, right? And then balancing that with being humble. You need to have conviction and be confident, but be able to know when you're wrong and say, I was wrong on this, and be curious and even open to being wrong, even searching for, oh, interesting, I didn't think about it that way. I'm wrong. And being wrong, not kicking your confidence to the curb, right? I'm wrong every single day. I'm also very confident. And being able to balance those two things. And I think I see a lot of women who aren't necessarily confident, and they lean too much into being really humble, and then they overcorrect. Then all of a sudden in a moment, they're like, wait, no, I can do this, I'm this. And it kind of comes out as an outburst instead of just having this like humble, quiet confidence in who you are. And that really comes from inside, and for me, from God too, of not being able to have that be like shaken. And then self-awareness. So that's foundational for growth. We kind of talked about emotional intelligence. That's so foundational for emotional intelligence, to be able to be aware of yourself, again, how you're leading yourself, to then be able to understand other people, to then be able to actually influence other people too.
That's so good, and something that speaks to me and reminds me of things that some things come natural, right? Some of those qualities can come natural, but other qualities you have to really be intentional about and
you have to know yourself, right? Like, are you someone that veers towards being arrogant? Then let's focus on humble. Are you someone that veers towards feeling imposter syndrome, feeling not good enough? Then let's work on being confident. You know, everyone needs to know where they're at to see what they need to work on.
Okay. As we end the episode, I've got a few rapid fire questions that I would love your quick answers on. So, first, beach or the mountains?
Mountains, without a doubt.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And I grew up in Florida, near the beach. I just love the mountains.
Love it. Favorite thing you're watching right now?
Oh, gosh.
Do you have time for TV?
Yes. Oh, my gosh. I watch way too much TV. That is like our wind down is an episode of TV a night. Right now we're watching Black Mirror. I don't know if it's my favorite thing, but right now we're watching that. Just finished Yellow Jackets. So really twisty, turny things.
I like it.
Yeah.
Best online tool you use regularly? I think I know that answer.
Yes. Pay the $20 a month. It is worth it. Typeset creates ebooks. It's like $200, also worth it. I mean, there's so many tools. Buy them all and get a job so you can afford them all.
There you go. Favorite leadership author or book? If you had to pick one.
Yeah, I am going to go a little cheesy here.
Okay.
The Bible.
Okay.
And Tim Keller. You can just learn so much from that. Simon Sinek, you mentioned him quite a bit. Brene Brown, I gobble up everything she talks about. Mel Robbins, I gobble up everything she talks about. But really, anything that resonates with you can become a leadership book, right? I even have fiction books that I'm like highlighting things and I'm like, yes, that is so good, right? So it doesn't need to be 7 Habits of a Highly Effective Leader. It's whatever you enjoy, just dig into it more.
Yeah. Do you think you'll ever write a book?
It's on my
Because you've written
hope list. Yes. I would be happy to. So we'll see. So before we close, though, I want to thank you, too, for doing this. And thank you, Momentum, for everything you guys do for all of us women here in Birmingham, Huntsville, the world soon.
I'm grateful that we've created an environment where conversations like this can happen, women can learn from other women and support other women, especially in a time when it can feel like on social media and other places that we aren't supporting one another. So I appreciate you being here and pouring your wisdom into us and your expertise. It's wonderful. And I think that, and I don't say this just to say this, but I truly believe that you are changing the world little by little by helping people become better leaders. And I'm just, so I'm so grateful to know you and for this conversation. So thanks, Kate.
Exactly the same. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you for listening to Momentum Matters. We invite you to subscribe to our podcast as we share more important conversations with women leaders. We would love for you to rate our show and share with others in your life. This episode of Momentum Matters was produced by Social U and brought to you by America's Thrift Stores, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Alabama, Protective Life, and Regions Bank. A full list of corporate partners can be found at momentumleaders.org. We also want to thank the individual donors, Momentum members, and volunteers for their commitment to our mission.